Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pharmaceutical Soccer. I am so happy to be here with you on this lovely day. Hope everybody is not extremely hot and overheating like I am at the current moment. Valair, Shabilla, Clay Trainham, I am here with.
So, point of clarification. Obviously, we all know that Steven quit the show last week, and we asked you that if you put in your resume to replace Steven by giving a 5-star rating, you would be able to replace Steven, and none of you did it. So, Steven is now regrettably back on the show, and that's your fault as a listener for not giving us a 5-star rating on Apple.
Well, I mean, probably because nobody wanted to replace me because they know how important I am to the integrity and well-being of this show. So,
Irreplaceable.
irreplaceable. I've heard that a few times in my life.
You're a regular Beyonce.
I was gonna make an own self-deprecating humor joke, but I decided not to. You both, how's your weekends? How are things? I'm so sad that I did not get to be on that full episode.
Do you guys remember when Steven would always tell me that I'm going solo? Speaking of Beyonce, that I just kind of went that way. So like a year and a half ago, he kept talking about how I was gonna go solo, and
I
then
mean, if
and then
we
he
were doing the Destiny's Child of pharmaceutical soccer, Steven would be Michelle.
What?
I think
I
Valair is
don't know this
obviously
topic
Beyonce.
enough.
I'll happily be Kelly Rowland, but Steven is definitely Michelle.
Yeah, I don't know enough about this. I clearly started something, but my weekend was good. Thanks for asking. I don't know if you asked actually, but I am in
I did.
Pure, Michigan,
As the
which
Beyonce of this podcast, I do care about the people that are here with me.
listeners who have been listening to this show know that I come here every summer, every winter too, actually. So, in Michigan, in a lovely basement out here in my sister's house. And hopefully this sounds good. That's really it. But I've had a great time here, eating, hanging out with family. Just what you want, just what you want for your summer. Generally, now when I come here, it's like really nice weather, especially at night, and I'm escaping the Tennessee heat. Not this time. It's actually as hot here as it is back home. So a little disappointed by that, but still really good food, family, good times. What about you guys?
I had my family in town, so we went and got some Loveless Cafe the other day. Give them a nice Tennessee meal, and then did some shopping. And it's my mom's birthday today, so shout out to Mary Pat. But it's all that's really going on. Honestly, it's a pretty low key weekend because this weekend I am going to meet a lot of the Everton team. Actually, I'm going to training on Friday in Atlanta, so pretty excited.
Ooh. Sorry, I felt the need to do that. I had a good weekend as well. Went to a couple concerts over the weekend. Plus, I've been kind of moving, so that's why I won't be cutting out anymore of shows because of the fact that I am actually grounded in one position, and it's very nice. And my internet's awesome now, so I'm not leaving. So no resume now can be done. Nothing can be had. I am here forever.
You are
Don't
still in
But still
DC though,
submit your
yeah?
resume and 5-star ratings on Apple.
You should still do
Also,
that.
we did get a comment from Spotify this week, so just going to get that out of the way real quick. And it was from Luke Blackman, who said, "Hell yeah, a Holiday World reference." So just going to go ahead and get the requisite Indiana check mark early here, and
That's right up
reference
Clay's alley, huh? So
reference as many Indiana landmarks as possible on here, and I will reference them in the comments, and I will bring them up on here. So up next,
I do
Indiana
have.
Beach.
I have one specific question to ask you guys to finally get back into what we talk about at this show when it comes to soccer specifically. So obviously, had to miss part of the episode last week. I missed one a couple episodes ago as well. Both of those times where there was instances we had losses on our record. Is this my fault?
Mm, I tend to blame
I mean,
everything on you, so yes.
yeah,
What?
I think that that's a fair point. So maybe we do need to replace you.
Yeah, maybe. No, now that I'm here, we're going to beat Aston Villa 6. I just cussed. Aston
Yo.
Villa 6-0. Sorry, I got used to.
Of all times to cuss, a completely meaningless match that
I
I'd be
know,
just
the worst
not
time.
happy.
Valair can do it, and it's funny, and it's great, but I do it just randomly and
It's
no
like
cuss.
when do we cuss on this show? Like incredibly sad tragedies, meaningless games against Aston Villa.
Valair being told he loves Robin Van Persie. All of those are the
it's a
reasons
tragedy.
why we cuss specifically. But I mean, if you do look at where we're at, obviously we're coming off of a loss against a team that's also kind of in the Supporter Shield race. We currently 2-2 in those matches. Obviously losing to Miami as well, beating Philadelphia, beating Columbus. How are you still feeling as confident as you did 2 weeks ago before we got into this stretch of these kind of tougher opponents? Are you still feeling like this team is as special and is as good as we've kind of painted out to be?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think we've painted it out to be more special than what it is. And I think any team that's capable of doing what Nashville SC has done would be talked about in this way. I think uh, throughout those weeks and throughout those matches, whether it was a win or not, I think we gave a fair response and a fair analysis that there are some concerns and there are some things that aren't working out. Now, the things that did work out far outweigh the things that don't work out, and that's generally what happens with a good team. So I don't think we over sort of estimated what this team can do earlier, and I don't think we're going to underestimate what this team can do now. I think going out to San Diego and losing 1-0 could have been 2-0 really, but losing 1-0 and the way it happened, we kind of talked about it in the Miami game as well. Is that this is what happens when you play against these top Supporter Shield teams, is that sometimes things don't go your way, and Nashville SC's 3 points away from the Supporter Shield, and that's just that in itself should give everybody motivation enough to go and chase this trophy.
The Supporter Shield isn't actually won in the games against Supporter Shield candidates. The Supporter Shield is won beating the teams you're supposed to beat most of the time. And I think proof positive of that is Philadelphia's in first place. Like Philadelphia doesn't have a sterling record against the Supporter Shield candidates, but they beat everybody else. And that's where you really make the difference because there are so many games that you play in this league. Now you're going to have to win a few of those, but I think going 500 in those types of games will set you up for success more often than not. And that's worth keeping in mind. Now it feels a little bit differently because it's happened later in the year. So these games have had significantly more stakes on it than maybe beating, Philly in the first month and a half of the season. But ultimately, you want to stay in the mix. And then when you get to the latter parts, teams will start dropping points in weird places, whether that's, a draw for Cincinnati against a Miami team without the best player in the league. Or, Miami is probably going to drop some points they shouldn't drop in other places as well. You're going to see that happen from time to time in this league, especially coming up. Nashville's going to get a break here. I mean, Aston Villa, let's be honest, that's a break. Like that's not an important match. And these other teams are going to be playing Leagues Cup and they're going to be playing, every few days. I mean, Philly's not, but you know what I'm saying. And so that's a chance, to kind of recoup and reset yourself going into the latter part of the season. But I would hate to focus too much on these Supporter Shield specific like contender games because where you separate yourself, and this is what we talked about earlier this season, where you separate yourself is taking full advantage of the opportunities against teams that you're supposed to beat.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, especially with this Nashville team, and we'll talk more about the match in specific against San Diego coming up in the next segment. But just like every other team, that is in the supporter shield race, you are starting to see where the holes are specifically. And you're definitely starting to see that, as Nashville playing, a lot of these really good teams where, oh, hey, here's specifically where the holes are for Nashville. So I got a question for the both of you. We're currently in third place in the standings right now in the East. We are currently ahead of Columbus and Inter Miami, and currently below Cincinnati and Philadelphia. At the end of the season, say we were to fall into that fifth place marker behind those four teams specifically, would you be upset? Or what based on now and what your expectations are, knowing that we can beat some of these top teams, where would you feel with Nashville kind of being in that fifth place spot at the end of the season?
I think that would be disappointing for Nashville SC and Nashville SC fans, because simply based on the trend that they have set themselves in, Nashville SC, going back to not finishing in the top four is disappointing. Now, that compared to the beginning of the season, obviously that's an overachievement, if anything. Um, I do think they kind of set themselves for success, though, and are able to maybe they were able to change hearts and minds of fans that this team is capable of competing for the supporter shield. So if by the end of the season, meaning 9 more games, that's all that's left in the MLS season, in these 9 games, for something like that to happen, for Nashville to finish fifth, some things would have to go wrong. They would have to lose more often, and they would and if that happens, the 9 games before the playoffs, then that's going to be like the effect of it is going to be even harder than just this disappointment of like finishing fifth. The effects of kind of going into the playoffs not in form is the most important thing to me. So if they were going to lose those games, I think everybody would prefer to happen now, and then maybe you go on a run right before the playoffs.
I think it also depends on what the table actually looks like. So if you accept that Miami is going to win its 3 games in hand, which is a lot to accept, but I'm just using this for example purposes, that would put the stretch between fifth place and first place at 7 points. That's pretty close. Last year, the difference between first place and fifth place was 23 points. So I think you have to look at an all-time great Shield race if that's going to be the situation. And so I don't think that you'd have any problem accepting it if the margin is that thin, where it's basically a goal on decision day is the difference between, maybe second or third and fifth. And right now, that's the way it looks like it's going to be. It looks like it's going to be an absolute dogfight. And I mean, especially considering new signings and things happening around the league, that it is going to be an absolute dogfight for the top four in the East.
And I was watching a little bit of the wrap up on MLS 360, not on MLS 360. That's not what the wrap up on MLS Season Pass. And Dax McCarty was making a point that his supporter shield team is San Diego, simply because the Eastern teams will take points off of each other, and that's a really good point that we've talked about on this show before. Of like, everybody there, it's we're not going to see one of the Eastern teams most likely go up and have that sort of separation like last year where it's 20 points or whatever, because everybody's playing against each other. Nashville still has games against those top 5 teams, so does the other ones play against each other. So there's going to be a lot of movements, and each win and each loss is going to feel more massive as we get closer to the end of the season. But there is an opportunity there also for the Western teams to maybe. There's only 3 actual kind of contenders and like 1 real contender, but maybe 2: Vancouver and San Diego from the West, and then LAFC is kind of outside looking in. But there are 5 real contenders in the East, and I think that makes it more complicated for Nashville. But also, it means that they hold some of this within their hands. So they are 2-2 in this supporter shield like run. Let's just say, losing to Miami and San Diego, but beating Columbus and Philly. So then they have Cincinnati away. That's something in their hand that they can control. So I think there's benefits and obviously some drawbacks to having so many good teams in one conference. But at the end of the day, Nashville will have a say in this. It's not something where they're only playing the lower teams and then or the higher teams and everybody else is playing lower teams. There's a lot of inner top 5 games still left.
Yeah, a ton
All
of
right,
top
so
5 games. Go ahead, Clay.
just real quick, who do you guys think is going to who do you think is the favorite? I guess not. Who do you think is going to who is the favorite down the stretch here?
Miami. I mean,
To win the Supporter
it's
Shield, I would say
Yeah.
Miami too.
That's kind of the way I
if
feel.
not Miami, if we're trying to be a little different, and not say Miami, then I would go with either Cincy or Philly, but I'm leaning towards Cincy. Losing Denke for a few weeks is going to hurt them, I think. So yeah, I think Cincy's pretty good. And then I think Miami, I think is the clear, just simply because of the talent they have.
The concern I have around Cincy's chances is sort of similar as what happened with Nashville at the weekend, which is Cincy had a really good record in 1-goal games, and
Mm-hmm.
that means you're seeing out games, but it also means that people can get you. And so I think that, yeah, I was just curious because I mean, it's got people who look at the table and aren't looking at games played are going to see Miami well behind everyone else. But 3 games in hand jumps them from where they are to first place if they win all 3.
Well, one of those teams that are in the race for the Supporter Shield, we played last week on Friday, and we need to talk about that match because we did lose to them. So we're going to do that next, right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer. We are back right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer at Pharma Soccer on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, of course. Also, make sure you are checking out 615soccer.com. Type it all out. We would love to have you be a part of the membership there. It is growing rapidly. We love to see it, especially when the end of the season is coming down the line. Been a lot of fun conversations, a lot of fun Huntsville conversation as well. Would love to have you be a member of 615soccer.com. Valair and Ben have finally learned what TikTok is, so that's really cool of them to figure that out. So be a part of it.
Valair's been on these TikTok streets for a while.
Yeah, bro. I've been posting. Actually,
I
I
have
post
not and will never
I
be.
go on months of hiatus, but I've been posting for a while.
Well,
I didn't learn it.
That's fair. You're learning what an algorithm is like, and the more content you post, the more views you get. But yes, that's.
Speaking of algorithm, do you like Eddie Taxeth as a Nashville SC fan? Let's just say Eddie Taxeth multiple times. Maybe they'll put this episode in the algorithm. But I got to sit down with Eddie Taxeth a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about everything. It's like from bachelorette parties to actually him growing up in Norway and being dubbed the next Martin Odegaard, which was crazy because Martin Odegaard at the time was like 18. So how could you have the next? Anyway, we talked about that. Maybe that wasn't on air, actually. Anyway, on air with Valair. Go listen to my interview with Eddie Taxeth. It was a good time. By listen, I mean watch because it's only on YouTube. And just type in on air with Valair, or type in my name, Valair, or type in 615 Soccer, or type in anything. Type in Eddie Taxeth. It'll probably pop up. We would love to have you watch that episode. And there are 2 other episodes on there. I did take a year-long break. But we're back for On Air with Valair, and hopefully we'll have more episodes coming out soon. So yeah, make sure to check it out.
I'm just going to give the heads up already. If you Google Eddie Taxeth, it does not pop up. So make sure you look up On Air with Valair. As the Google expert, Stephen Robinson, that I am, which we all know is the case.
If you Google Eddie Taxeth interview, how about that?
We just need to have Steven Google random soccer players to see if they've actually signed with Nashville SC and it hasn't been promoted. Like that could just be, if we have another week off segment, we're just going to have Steven just Google soccer players.
Google.
Okay, so if you Google Eddie Taxeth interview, click the 4th option that is on Google. Or you can click the first option, or you can click the 51-second version, the short version.
Or
so much of you will click the 4th option that it becomes the first option.
That's what I'm saying. It's only been 3 days.
Exactly.
The algorithm is building, baby. When you type in Jack Mayer, my energy is right there. So we're gonna build towards that.
Also, pharmasoccer.com if you want to be wearing merch, which Valair wasn't during his interview with Eddie Tagseth. But if you want to be wearing merch, please, 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 we would love to have you in it. Pharmasoccer.com. Check it out. Anyways, we need to talk about
Just for the
Nashville
record, my
losing.
Pharma Soccer T-shirt is undefeated at home.
Are you going to wear it against Aston Villa?
I will be in Atlanta, so I will not be at that
Okay,
game.
fair enough. I don't know if I'm going to make it or not. Just the day I drive back from Michigan. This is a little preview for what's coming up this segment. Go ahead, Steven.
Nashville losing to San Diego 1-0, not 2-0, 1-0 on the road. I think it's interesting. I think we should start off the conversation. There was a lot of controversy this week when it came to Lionel Messi and Jordi Alba not being in the All-Star match, which is on a Wednesday, which was on Wednesday, featuring three of our players specifically. Where Javier Mascherano's is like, I like the All-Star game, but when it comes to exhaustion, having it midweek in the middle of the season, in the middle of the summer, is not necessarily the best place to put it. Now that you saw this match against San Diego with, three of our members kind of in that all-star exhaustion, do you think there was a little bit of exhaustion there from our all-stars when it came to them in the mix?
I don't think that if there was any exhaustion, it had a whole lot to do with playing for 20 minutes in Austin. I know that there's travel and things like that, but I think if you're dealing with exhaustion issues, it's probably coming from playing a lot of games in a short amount of time. And I think All Star makes an easy thing to point to. I particularly just think it was a West Coast trip for Nashville, and those are difficult. And I don't really attribute the All Star break to any sort of reasons for that game. I also, just on an aside, I think it's a bit of a cop out to complain as one of the teams playing on Saturday about exhaustion from the All Star break when half the league played on Friday. So,
I'm not
and
getting into the
yeah,
Inter Miami
I'm
thing.
just saying
Uh,
there were plenty of other
I
players who have played a lot of minutes this season who played on Friday night, Hani Mukhtar included, and I don't really think that anything from the All Star game had an effect on whatever happened in the game.
I think that's, I don't know. I disagree with that. I think saying it has no
I don't.
effect is
I think it's negligible, is what I think.
that's fair. I mean, I don't think like they went to the All Star and now Nashville lost. I don't think it's that easy. But also, when you are in a supporter shield race, I think these margins matter, and I think having these small margins, San Diego maybe had a little bit of an advantage being at home and not having to travel across the country and not having three of their best players, if not three, their best players, be halfway through that trip and then have to do a couple different activities instead of being with the team and learning about San Diego. I think these things matter, and I think these things do take a hit. But that doesn't mean that the All Star shouldn't happen or that players shouldn't go to All Star. It just means that MLS really just, I don't understand this scheduling at all. Wednesday to Friday makes no sense. They don't even do that with regular games. So why would they do it in All Star? And I think everybody's in agreement here that that shouldn't have been scheduled that way. That said, there's also exhaustion, like Clay said, from all the other things that are happening, whether it's travel across the country or whether it's all these games every 3 days. But the kind of easy answer to that is that, well, San Diego deals with that as well. They have to go to the Eastern Conference teams. They don't always play at home. They have all stars. It's kind of one of those things where it's not necessarily the reason, but it did affect certain things and it did affect the way Nashville played, I think, a little bit. That said, Nashville still had an opportunity to go out there and showcase who they are. I wouldn't say they failed in doing that, but they didn't show the best of Nashville. If Nashville has showed their best in that game, I have no concerns of them winning that game. And San Diego was fielding a makeshift defensive line, all for and Nashville just took a while to get into that game. And I felt like both teams were a little afraid to go for it at the beginning, and I thought both teams were just kind of timid a little bit. But then San Diego were the ones to punch and keep punching, and that's what got them the goal. So I think that has to do more with the loss than the exhaustion.
That's kind of what I was trying to say, but you said it better there. I think the thing to keep in mind is it was a sort of the slog of summer MLS road trip West Coast team. It was a better showing from Nashville than when they went to Seattle earlier this year. But the thing that stuck out to me was just everybody was just a step off, which is kind of what you see when teams are being maybe not decisive, maybe taking a little bit too too long to make the right pass, or trying to make a pass that they wouldn't try to make if they were playing at home. Things like that. Like, I mean, I don't know how many interceptions happened in that game, but I'm sure Will Levis would be proud. And it was just it. I can't believe how many times I said, "Why did they make that pass?" or "What is the reason for that kind of pass?" I felt like I brought that up a lot. I know that Mary was tired of hearing it when we were watching the game together because it was driving me nuts. And then Nashville still very much had a chance to get something out of that game, especially the last 10, 15 minutes where it really felt like they were asserting sort of more of their style on the game.
Classic Clay, knocking a man while he's down. Bro is already out for the season, man. No need for him to catch strays from you.
Well, let's talk about where specifically Nashville was a step off. And first, I do think we need to talk about just the defensive errors, just because this is one of the first matches where we've really seen just some defensive errors affect the way the tempo of the game is. BJ's style of play has a lot of tempo involved, a lot of you are the one dictating how the game forms, and when you're making those defensive errors, that's not the case, and it was showed against San Diego.
And this is a Nashville team, and we always talk about Nashville, whether there's good or bad, or they did something right, or they did something wrong. But I think in this case, we do have to talk about San Diego and the way they played, because a lot of what Nashville had to do, they were forced to do it based on San Diego's press first, and then also San Diego's play out of the back. Because generally, when Nashville presses you the way the Nashville have been pressing, they have been very successful in getting the ball pretty high up the pitch. San Diego were able to play through Nashville's press multiple times and really just put the defenders on their heels way more than they are used to. And that's where these mistakes started to happen, not only from Nashville playing out of the back and being pressed into it, but also from the way that San Diego were able to build out of the back and beat Nashville's press. So when somebody like Walker Zimmerman makes that last-ditch effort, now I do think the decision to keep it a yellow card is correct. However, you don't see them doing that a whole lot because the ball for San Diego doesn't generally make it that far because of Nashville press keeping the ball higher up the pitch. So, and then the other one is obviously Palacios, who kind of lost his head for a little bit and was a little. Generally, he's a calm presence, and he kind of lost that in a bit, and then earned a yellow card that he really didn't need to have. So I think those two situations specifically, even though they didn't lead to a goal, I think it destabilized what Nashville were able to do because of those defensive errors that kind of made them feel a little less confident in the game.
I do think that this is so one of the things that we talked about earlier in the season for huge chunks of the season is what happens when Zimmerman comes back. And we weren't sure if Mayer would be out there or Palacios. And some of the things that Palacios gives you, like, he's quicker than Mayer is, and he can kind of cut down. If there is a mistake, he can get back a lot quicker than maybe Mayer could. But I do think that this is another situation where you look at maybe Mayer's a little bit cleaner on making some of the passes. And when Mayer plays well, you don't tend to say his name afterwards. And I think that there's some balance that you're looking to strike with your center field pair, or your center back pairing. And so I think this was a game that kind of like a reminder. Oh, maybe this isn't the best pairing. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know that this is a decisive thing, but it is just something to keep in mind. Uh, I also think that it's worth noting that I don't know that I've seen an individual player frustrate Nashville as much as Chucky Lozano did. in this game. Like he really seemed to find a way to make the most of Nashville SC's frustration in defending him. And we've seen Nashville play Messi a few times. Like we've seen a lot of players maybe have good games, but I don't know that we've ever seen a player like individually frustrate Nashville defensively as much as Lozano did in this game.
And I know listeners are probably listening right now and they're screaming about the ref and the decisions that happened with the ref. But look, I try to avoid talking about the referees as much as possible, but sometimes I don't think he had a good performance necessarily, the referee. I also don't think that we would be talking about the ref if Nashville had gotten out of there with a win. And that's I think it's one of those things where because there were so few chances, what the ref did and didn't do is scrutinized at a higher level. The ref also, despite VAR recommending going back a red card, the ref decided to keep it a yellow, which again was the right decision. But I've seen that same situation play out where the red card was given in the Premier League. And I remember it very, very vividly because it was William Saliba. And it was the other defender was pretty close, like Palacios, but still they gave out the red card. So it doesn't always work out. But I just maybe avoid taking the refs angle here just because I think Nashville SC at their best would still have won that game or at least gotten a result.
Just one last thing on the ref. I think that the most egregious decision that maybe you could point to for the ref, there were lots of like 50-50 ones that you see go either way. And I do think like you can make an argument that Hani should have gotten a penalty, but when there is a equally dodgy sort of penalty call on the other end and that gets saved, it kind of wipes out that argument to me, like that didn't really have it. I don't think it's an unfair score line at the end of the day. I don't think Nashville was good enough to win that game. I think they would have been kind of lucky to draw. And it is what it is. You move on. And they didn't play poorly. I mean, they played poor at times, but they didn't have a terrible bad game like Seattle earlier this year. It's just one of those where if that's a home game instead of a road game, maybe Nashville wins it.
And speaking of refs not being informed, defense is not informed. We've seen what it's like when our wingers are in form and playing extremely well. Now we're starting to see what it's like when they are not in form. And I don't think this has necessarily just been a one match thing. I think this has been a couple match issue. Valair, what's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a carousel of different names and hitting form, and then magically losing the form right after they earned the starting spot. And, it happened with Ahmed Qasim earlier this year, Johnny Perez more recently. He was not having his best game. And I think if you asked him, he would tell you he was not having his best game against San Diego for Johnny Perez. But he's one of those guys where when he's on his game, he's borderline, unbeatable. But he wasn't on his game, and when it's bad, it's bad. But also because the way Nashville plays is so central and so narrow, and the wingers are often the ones kind of wider out and trying to stretch the field while the play is kind of happening inside of them, if that makes sense. So when it's not working and they aren't able to be part of the play, they're just not part of it at all. So when they get one or two touches and they miss those one or two touches, then it's looked at as, an even bigger deal because it's fewer touches than the rest of the team. So the rest of the attackers, I should say. So, for the wingers, it's good to have multiple options and it's good to have players in form, play and go. But I still think like this position, specifically on the right side, because I think Alex Muriel has kind of locked in that left side position, at least for the remainder of this season. But on that right side, Ahmed Qasim, Jacob Schaffelberg, and Johnny Perez, if one of those players can really hit form, they can make that position theirs. Because we've seen BJ Callahan willing to keep a player in who is in form and who is doing well. And I am pretty curious of when there's another MLS match coming up, if Jacob Schaffelberg is going to be that guy because he looked really good off the bench, I thought, against San Diego. and I thought he came in to prove a point, and he proved it really in that little bit of period that he had against San Diego.
Yeah, I think that opening 25 minutes from Perez might be the worst 25 minutes that we've seen from that position this season. I mean, it's unfortunate. I do think that Schaffelberg is next up. I think Kasim has had some of his better performances in a few months, but you got Schaffelberg's healthy. He looked good. I think you got to give him a run and see what can happen, especially because you can use Kasim in multiple spots. So he might be more helpful in a bench role for the time being, until you can kind of figure out where Perez is.
And Tyler Boyd is coming back
Of course.
probably by some time. He's recovering. He's on the pitch at least in training, so it's not like he's that far off. But I would be surprised if it's anything that's going to be like huge for this season. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the next couple of games, maybe be on the bench.
I do think it was super cool as well, just for the traveling fans and the fans that were there from San Diego. San Diego does have a really cool atmosphere in the stadium. It definitely felt like a playoff atmosphere, especially from a Nashville perspective, to get an understanding of especially for a lot of these players that don't know what it's like to be in the playoffs specifically, because we have such a new team. A lot more of an understanding, I believe, for this Nashville squad, and just a lesson learned of like, these are the atmospheres that you're going to be dealing with in these high matches. When we go to Cincinnati, it's going to be like that. Like, Nashville is a team that people are worried about and people are taking names about. I think it's cool. It's fun to see, but that atmosphere is fantastic in San Diego as well.
Yeah, and it's not just the atmosphere on the pitch, right? It's a high stakes game, and the more you have those, the better suited you are, or the better you will get with it, right? And that's not just us saying this. This is what BJ Callahan and the players were saying after the match as well, and they said it after the Miami game, they said it after the Philly game, and they said it after the Columbus game. This is high intense match, regardless of what's happening, like fan wise or atmosphere wise. The on the pitch atmosphere is high stakes. But then obviously you add in the fans, you add in the stadium, you add in the travel, all that stuff. That's all part of it. And Nashville, at this point of the season, often aren't playing that high intensity matches because they're kind of stuck in those, maybe 4 to 6 spot in the East generally. So now that there's something to play for and the stakes are much higher, those matches get more intense. And the more they play those, obviously, the more experience they'll have with them. So when the playoffs come, maybe they'll be better suited for it.
And speaking of something to play for, we have a big match coming up this weekend that does mean a lot in terms of just standing results and everything going. Oh, wait, no, it doesn't. Sorry, my bad. Nashville does have a friendly against Aston Villa this Saturday coming up. Don't have a league match, but a friendly, I guess. Is this technically the first week of League's Cup, which is why we were off this weekend? Is that what the case was?
Yes.
You
Yes.
guys are nodding like this is not a audio medium here at the current moment.
It is, yes. Leagues Cup, that's the thing that happened the last 2 years, and Nashville were part of it. They're no longer part of it, and it's still happening to everyone's not enjoyment. I don't know. I couldn't think of a word. Clay, take it from me.
Yeah, it's, it is what it is. It means marginally more than this Aston Villa game. I know that the League's Cup, I don't know. I think that they need to do some, just generally speaking, some reevaluation of it. I think if they were to do it as an every, maybe few years thing, it would be more interesting. But in this year, where there's been a Club World Cup, there's U.S. Open Cup, there's any number of other competition, CONCACAF Champions Cup, and there's so many competitions that are happening. The League's Cup field has never felt more worthless.
But
And
back to
I
this
would feel
Aston Villa
differently if
game.
Nashville was in the final playing for it again. But I think that the scenario around it is different. I think that the League's Cup's importance drew a lot off of it being Messi's debut in MLS, and they haven't been able to figure out what to do with it since.
Speaking of Aston Villa, right? That's kind of what we're talking about.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's go back to it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a friendly. I think it's good. I think it's gonna. We said this about the Club World Cup is that it's gonna bring a different crowd to Geodis Park, because it's Aston Villa and maybe not one of the traditional top six or even a more popular team in America. Now Aston Villa is pretty popular. This not disrespectful, but they're not Manchester United or Arsenal or anything like that. So uh, I think it's not going to be as big of an effect, but it's cool to see Nashville play against these guys and bring in a team that is professional and showcase really what you have in Nashville. I do absolutely hate that it's in the middle of the season. I just don't think Nashville needs this. At the same time, I think some of the Huntsville guys might get their debut, and that's cool for them because that's a good experience to have. And at the end of the day, it is a friendly. And if Nashville win 5-0, well, if they win 5-0, actually, that will make some storylines. But if they lose 5-0, that just wouldn't matter.
I think that it's also just important to keep in mind that this is a good recruitment opportunity for Nashville as well. A lot of these players that are playing for Aston Villa will have not played against MLS teams. They will have not seen facilities. And when guys are older, like older players are still a part of the way you figure out, building a team in this league. So you look at a team like Aston Villa that has guys on it that maybe end up in MLS down the line, like a Leon Bailey who plays in CONCACAF, of course, or an Amadou Onana who's a great player for them, or an Ollie Watkins, of course. These are guys that this is their entree into like playing in the US, and maybe 4 or 5 years from now they could be playing for Nashville, or Nashville could be in the mix for them, and they could become an important player the same way Sam Surge went to the Premier League to play in MLS. So it is important to remember that there is a service that you can get from Aston Villa other than just being an important game against a Premier League team.
And we'll make predictions about this in the next segment as well. We are going to have a little bit of fun in the next segment, which I'm curious to see what it is. Valair is kind of on pins and needles here, but we're playing a game in the third segment. We're going to do that next, right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer. We are back right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer at Pharma Soccer, of course, on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Of course, 615soccer.com as well. Spell it out, become a member. We would love to have you. Also, pharmasoccer.com. Go buy some merch. One of the things that Clay kind of brought up in the first segment that we haven't brought up in a little bit, we miss seeing reviews. We miss seeing those being sent to us. We read all 5-star reviews on air. So if you want to get your name on air, please leave a review. We'll find it wherever you leave it. But yeah, would love to read your 5-star reviews on air. So please check it out. I don't like games because it means I'm probably going to lose, but let's just do this anyways. Valair, let's it's your
I feel
show now,
like,
Valair.
see, you don't like games because it puts it on you, but like Valair has already said, I'm 1,000% going to win, which makes me very nervous that I'm not. So I feel like all the pressure falls on me,
Okay.
not on you.
Also, Steven, you love games. You play games for like 85% of your life.
He
That's
went to a
also
board game convention. Not even I've done
Yeah.
true.
What is this about? You're lying to people now on air.
that. It's a self-defense
Anyway,
mechanism.
this is a game that I invented. Obviously, no other podcast or show has ever played it in the history of sports podcasts or shows. I don't have a name for it because everybody does it. But so here's the rules, really quick and simple. Steven's playing against Clay, but you can play at home. And I'm going to name you a Nashville SC player. And one of you is going to go first, and it's going to bid how many clubs they can name. I'm going to tell you the amount of clubs they played for, and you will bid how many clubs you can name. Now, the other person has the right to either outbid you or let you go with the amount of clubs you said you can do. If you name all clubs, you get the point. If you don't name all the clubs, the other person gets the point. Pretty clear and simple. I think we've all played a game similar to this, but I think you'll get it. I have 3 names, so it's 3 rounds. Best out of 3, obviously. There's no ties here. But to start with, I'm going to need Steven, for you to give me a number between 1 and 10.
6.
Clay?
4.
Okay, Clay's going to go first. So, Steven, please be quiet.
Also, Clay, now that you've gotten the game, like what the game is, do you feel so much more confident now that you're going to beat
I
me?
don't.
Because
It
the
depends
answer is
on which
yes.
players. It depends on which players he says.
Okay, so this man has 9 clubs. That is including Nashville SC, which you can say Nashville SC. So for all of these, so 9 total. In those 9, he is one Samuel William Surridge. 9 clubs total. Clay, what's your bid?
I'm gonna go with 4.
Okay, so you got to give me a number.
I'm going with 4. I can.
4. Oh, I
I'm
thought you
bidding
said
4.
lower. Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
No, I said 4.
Okay, 4. Steven, do you want to? You think you can do 5, or are you gonna let him go for 4?
I can do 1. So the answer is no. I'm going to let Clay go and do 4.
All right, Clay, go
Okay.
ahead.
Nashville, Bournemouth, Stoke City, and Nottingham Forest.
Those are the most known 4. Correct. Clay gets the point. The ones the other 5 are Weymouth, Poole Town, Yeovil Town, Oldham Athletic, and Swansea City. They were all loans. So you got the actual clubs, but you missed the loans.
Yeah. I think if I was pushed, I could have gotten to Swansea, maybe Yeovil, but I wasn't confident about Swansea.
Well, Clay takes the point there. Steven, now you're going first on this next one.
I know he like hold on real quick on the Sam Surridge thing. I know like he like whenever he's done like videos and stuff like that, like when they talk about like favorite Premier League team, he always talked about Nottingham Forest, but he was a part of the Bournemouth Academy and I didn't even realize that he played for Bournemouth.
Yeah, he played for Bournemouth before they were in the Premier League, I believe.
Oh,
So
interesting.
I don't think he ever. Well, he might. He was on their roster when they were in the Premier League. I just don't think he played for them in the Premier League.
Interesting. All right, my turn.
All right, this one's an interesting one. Steven, I don't think you're good at this game. I'm sorry, buddy. I'll find a game you're good at.
Thanks,
This
friend. I
next one,
appreciate that.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This next one has 8 clubs and is one Gaston Brugman. Steven, how many of the 8 do you think you can name?
2.
Okay. Do you want to go for 2 or do you want to make your bid a little higher? You convinced with 2? Don't look it up. I see you opening a window.
Oh,
I'm
he's
not
got his
looking it up
computer
anything.
open.
Yeah.
I'm literally not looking up anything. I literally am just like trying to figure
Okay.
out specifically. No, I can do 2. Actually, I don't even know if I can do 2.
You can't do 2.
I think I can do 1 for
Okay.
sure.
Clay, do you
bidding
want to
1?
take more than 2?
Oh, is he doing 1 or 2?
Which one are you going for, Steven?
I'm gonna go for 2. I'm gonna fail, but
2.
I'm gonna go for 2.
Okay. Clay, you gonna let him go or you gonna outbid him?
This is one I definitely don't feel confident about. So I'm just going to say 3. I don't feel confident at all.
Steven, can you do 4 or are you going to let him go with 3?
I'm letting him go with 3. There's no way I can do 4.
Hey, I am the judge here. I have to give you a chance. I'm just following the rules of the game that I invented that no one else has ever thought about. Clay,
That's fair.
go ahead. 3 Gaston Brugman clubs.
I mean, obviously the Galaxy and Nashville SC. And then I'm just going to pick a random Club Leon. I don't know.
Club Leon, really? Wow,
It's because you had family there. I was picking a random.
He did not play in Mexico at any point.
Well, there you go.
He is from Uruguay, as you know.
Oh,
and
okay.
Where do Uruguayan and Argentinian players generally play? Serie A. So all of his other clubs were Serie A or Italian clubs. I don't think he's played in Uruguay. He has played in Spain, but yes, not Uruguay.
I know so little about his backstory compared to so many other players on an like it's literally like the one guy because he
went from Penarol's academy straight to the Serie A. So
I am
Okay.
proud because the second one I would have gotten, and that would have been about it. So I'm very happy. That's all I need to know is that I am successful in my own right because it was
And
Palermo, what I thought it was. So yay, go me.
yeah, so just to go over the clubs is Empoli, Pescara, Grosseto, Palermo, Parma. Parma for actual transfer, Oviedo on loan in Spain, then Galaxy, Nashville SC.
Yeah.
All right,
I
last
had no
one,
idea.
and since Clay got that one wrong, Steven actually gets a point. Uh,
It's not over yet. Clawing back.
and this one, Clay does go first on the bidding. So, Clay Trainum, will
Can it be a
you?
player that I know really well? Like that would be awesome.
Neither of you know this one. Well, maybe Clay will know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, another 8 team one, and that is one Brian Acosta. 8
Ooh.
teams. Clay, how many can you get?
I'm gonna go with 3.
3. Steven, do you have 4?
I think I could do 4.
No way. This is
Name
actually
them.
intense.
Name them. Absolutely name
Okay.
them.
Okay. Clay's taking that's it. Yeah, go ahead, Steven.
Okay, well, since we didn't necessarily, I'm going to do this one to be cheeky because Valair's rules and games suck specifically. So I'm going to go with the Honduran national team as one.
It's not a
That
club.
was not a part of the rules. Never a part of the
He said
rules.
a club.
Never brought it up as a part of the rules.
I
Don't
said
even want.
8 clubs. I said 8 clubs.
He literally said clubs so many times.
I said the number of clubs, and you're picking from those numbers.
Are you saying that's not a club? Fine.
It's
Okay.
not. It's a national team.
All right. Hold on. Hold on.
Okay. Okay.
FC
Well,
Dallas.
okay, that's one.
Technically, he's played for 10.
I'm trying. Yep, I've gotten one at the current moment. Wait, Leon? Club Leon? Did he play for Leon?
What's up with you guys at Club Leon? These people did
I-
not play for Club Leon. Why?
I literally
Why
just said that. I literally just said that because Valair has family there. That is the only reason. I had no idea.
There's no connections to Brugman or Acosta and Mexico. They never went there. They had no games there. I don't know
I literally
why
only.
you both. Um, there were 4 just in MLS, Steven. So I
I was
thought you
I
you
was
had the
working
4.
on that, but I decided to not go for that. FC Dallas. Did he play for the Dynamo too?
No.
I give up.
It's Dallas, Colorado, Portland, and Nashville were the 4 MLS teams. And then
And
Real
Huntsville.
España was his team in Honduras, Tenerife, and Gaziantep is the other 2.
And Huntsville. And
And
Colorado
Rapids
Rapids
too.
2.
Obviously, I didn't count those because
I'm
why
just
would I do
saying
that?
they're on loan. They are teams in
I
other
know,
leagues.
but
So
well, in the first edition of this game that I will come up with a name for, Clay Trainum is the winner. Congrats, Clay. You did it, buddy. It was 2-1 win, so narrow win. But
It was
we
I
closer
will
didn't
than
cover
say,
expected.
ourselves. We didn't cover ourselves in glory. I will say that
No,
we
not at
did not
all.
cover
We
ourselves in
both did
glory.
not do terrific.
I was gonna go like non-National SC players, but I thought this would be fun to play with people listening. Now, next time we do this game, one of you guys should do it so I can play and we can keep score of
Yes.
this.
Yeah,
And
we're gonna
if you
do
played at
6
home, let
degrees.
us know how you did.
Next time I'll
Since I
host, and we'll do 6
since I
degrees of
lost,
Nashville FC.
since I lost, I will host next time whenever we
There
do
you
it.
go. There you go.
If next week is when we want to do it. That was fun, Valair. Thank you very much. I hated it, but I still very much liked it for sure.
Yeah, I think there'll be more competition if Clay and I go head to head. Just saying.
Wow, I hate you so much. It wasn't specifically that. We're not going to act like Clay did the most tremendous job of all time either when it comes to this game. So, did he beat me? Yes. But would I expect more from Clay? And would patients expect
You
more from
sound
Clay?
like Valair
Also,
talking
yes.
when Chelsea wins the Club World Cup. That's exactly what you sound like right now.
I'm not even gonna
At the end
fight
of the
that.
day,
That is
results do
true.
matter.
We're champions of the world. It's kind of cool. All right, we play Aston Villa on Saturday. Are you guys going to that game, by the way?
Did
For
you
the
not hear
third time, I'm
earlier?
not.
Valair, I was asking you.
I'm driving from Michigan that day, so it's gonna be really game day decision. I mean, it's gonna be like 2 hours before game day when I get to Nashville. So we'll see how. Wait, no, that game is at 4, isn't it?
I think it's at
Yeah, I'm
4.
not going. Yeah, I don't think I'm going. I don't think I can make it in time. Maybe if I drive really fast.
Well, let's just do predictions and plugs then. I don't know what else to do.
I won't be driving fast because safety first. There you go.
Okay.
That's a plug.
Valair,
I think this game is gonna end 4-2 to Aston Villa, and I think um, that who did I say will score? I was asked this earlier, so I want to keep my predictions in check here. I think Schaffelberg and Bauer will score Nashville's goals, and I think that's that. I don't know. I have nothing else for that game.
Where can people follow you?
At Valair Shabilla on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky as well. And you can follow all sorts of work from interviews to written material to video to audio like this one and other things, all online. Everywhere you go, you need 615 Soccer with you. That's a new tagline right there.
All right, you can follow me at Clay La Soul on Instagram and Twitter. And if you do this week, you're probably going to see lots of Everton posts as I will be in Atlanta for the Everton Manchester United game. And as for what happens in this game, I don't care. I think it'll be a 3-1 win for Aston Villa. I will say this: it is like kind of fortunate, at least on bragging rights ends. Like if Nashville had stayed unbeaten, when they had the big streak, and then were to have lost this completely meaningless game, we don't have to explain to people they're still on an unbeaten streak. So we at least have that going for us. But yeah, I think that Bauer scoring is a good shout. I'm going to go with that 3-1 with Bauer scoring. He's going to continue his midseason friendly romp from 2 years ago when he scored against America. So that's a good shout. 3 years ago, yeah, good job there.
At PH Steven HD on all my stuff. I'm gonna predict a 0-0. It's gonna be the most boring friendly of all time because it's at 4 p.m. in Nashville on a Saturday. And there is going to be the one thing I will predict though, because it will be a 0-0 draw. Unai Emery will have some sort of mic drop moment talking about how stupid like the weather in Nashville is. Like that this is dumb that they're even here playing this match because nobody should be this hot. And that's exactly what I predict.
I will say, fortunately, this heat wave that we're currently on will have cooled down a little bit. But if they were to play this past Saturday, it would be like a heat index in the hundreds, and we might have watched an English person die. Honestly, a 4 p.m. game in the American South for an English team by choice for a friendly is just a crazy decision.
I mean,
and before we end this show, I just want to wish everybody a good evening, and I hope that they enjoy the Aston Villa game.
I hope everybody enjoys it as well. I know I will be watching it from afar, kind of paying attention. Maybe not fully paying attention, but who knows. Thank you again so much for listening to the show. We really do appreciate it. Thank you, Valair, again for fun games. Thank you, Clay, of course, for always just being Clay. And yeah, really appreciate. Love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week to talk about that Aston Villa match. And
that we'll all be watching.
We'll do more games.
We'll do more games. Everybody have a good time. Really appreciate it. Have a good rest of your week.